Hello everyone, in this video I'll be going over LeetCode number 58, length of last word. The problem description is, given a string s consisting of some words separated by spaces, return the length of the last word in the string. If the last word does not exist, return 0. A word is a maximal substring consisting of non-spaced characters only. So for example, if we had the input s equal to hello world, we would output 5 because the last word in here, which is WORLD, has length 5. For the solution to this problem, there are a lot of different ways you can approach it. One most obvious way would just to go through the entire string of characters, locate the last word, and count the amount of characters in it. Now, this solution would be a little bit hard to program and wrap your head around. Therefore, the fastest and most optimal solution that takes 0 milliseconds of runtime would be to work backwards. So the way you want to approach this is start from the end. Now, as we're starting from the end, let's look at the rightmost character. This is a blank or a space. Now here, we don't really care about this character because it's not the first letter. So what I mean is, as we continue, we notice that the second one is a blank. The third one is a letter. This is a letter D. So we can create a counter that will store, okay, there's one letter here, so the length of the last word currently is just 1. Because this is the first word we have found going from the end. So therefore, it is the last word going from the start. Now let's move on. We notice that there is an L. This is a second letter. Therefore, the last word now contains 2 letters. Let's move on. There is an R. Now we know that the last word contains 3 letters. Moving on. There is an O. Now we know that the last word contains 4 letters. Moving on, there's a W. Now we know that the last word contains 5 letters. Once we move on once more, we notice that there is an empty space. Once there's an empty space, we notice that this word is complete. Therefore, the length of the last word would be 5 in this example. Looking at this one more time, let's approach the second example. We notice that the first one is a space. We don't really care about this. Second one is a space. Again, we don't care. Now the third one is the beginning or the ending of the last word. Here we do care about. So once we notice that there's a U, we're going to set a counter. And now we're going to keep on counting until the last word is finished. We go over to the O, we increment counter. We go over to the Y, we increment counter. So now we have 3. Now we come across a space. So now we know that this word is complete. Once we come across a space, we can end the program and return the number 3 because that is the length of the last word. So this is how we can solve this problem. Let's move on to coding it. So now in order to start programming this, we have to first program the loop that will go from backwards to forwards of the string. Let's write this out. Now we need to initialize a counter that will count the length of the last word. Inside the loop, we need to figure out when we need to start counting. So once we hit the first character, that is a letter, we need to start counting that as the word. So let's write if s at position I is unequal to a space. In that case, we can start counting. Now we need to figure out when we need to stop, and in that case, we'll need a Boolean. So the reason why is, suppose we have hello world. Suppose you have a sequence like this. Now, as soon as this program starts, it's going to come across the first space. Now over here, we notice that if it's not a space, then we have to continue. Then we're going to come across the second space. And then we're going to come across the first word. And by that time, we're going to finish the word. We're going to have counter equal to 5. Then we're going to come across a space. So once we come across a space, we have to write else if s at position I is a space, we need to break. However, there's one problem with this code. In the beginning, the first character we see is a space. Therefore, if we write something like this, it would just break automatically here. But then we run into the problem. If we remove this line of code, while we're going through, we'll have no method of breaking out of the loop. Therefore, let's initiate a boolean, bool found equal to false. Once we first start finding the word, we'll set false equal to true. Found equal to true, and then we'll write and found. What this does is basically, when we start off at the end where there are spaces, we won't count these. Once we come across the first letter, we will state that, okay, we have started finding our word. Once we end finding the word and we come across a space, we'll write, okay, we have already found our word, so now let's break. And at that point, we can just print out our answer. As you can see, the runtime is 0 milliseconds.